rocking.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah. Going on, everybody? Hello and welcome to On the Pike Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepardson, and today is Tuesday, March the 7th, 2023, years after zero, and we got a heck of a show coming at you live. Not live. I'm recording it live as I'm talking, but you're not going to be listening to it live because I'm recording it right now, but you know what I meant. We are coming at you. It is Tuesday, which means you are just in time for another episode of OTP Tuesday, and we got a really fun one coming at you. We got a lot to talk about. There's a few rants. Not gonna lie, there's a few rants, and I'm gonna try to keep it tame because, listen, we appreciate everything that everybody does for this sport, but if there's a glaring hole and a glaring problem, then we need to address the glaring hole and the glaring problem. So I don't want to come off the wrong way, but we do got some things to talk about. But beyond that, we are joined by second place in points in 2022. The third member of the overall podium this past weekend, Craig Delong, is going to be joining us. We had a cool conversation with Craig, learn more about what he's going through, what's been going on in his world, the transition into the XC1, the mentality of being in XC1. Man, we talked a lot of good things. It's a really fun conversation. I enjoyed it. That's going to be coming at you. And then we are joined by back-to-back XC2 class winner, Ryder Lafferty. He got second at the Sumter National Enduro, and then he came out and won the two opening rounds of GNCC in that XC2 class. Came down to the wire with Lyndon Snodgrass in South Carolina at Big Buck in that second round, and then backed it up this past weekend with a win in Florida in that XC2 class. So we're going to talk to him as well. And man, first of all, what a difference a couple years makes, just because the first time that we had Ryder Lafferty on and hearing his story and hearing about his situation and basically the transition from his previous team and how that rug got pulled out almost overnight, and then joining the Coastal Gas team to now 2 years later having the success, battling for championships in National Enduro for the overall. He was leading the points for a good portion of last year, second in points for a good portion of last year, finished the year in third, finished the year second in points in GNCC. So it's cool to see that transition of Ryder's career. And so it was cool to catch up with him and hear about that and hear where he's at now and signing the new deal with Coastal to remain there for 2 more years. To his first season with Ranch Russell, him and Craig DeLong, both members of the Ranch Russell crew down there. So we talked to him a little bit about that, about what it's been like being down there for the preseason and getting ready for the season as compared to what he was doing before. So just an overall really good conversation with Ryder Lafferty as well, and a really good conversation with Craig DeLong. So I'm stoked that you're here. I'm stoked that you're joining us. And yeah, I think it's a fun episode that we have coming at you. We will first get into the results of this past weekend. It was the Wild Boar GNCC down in the sands of Palatka, Florida. A lot drier than what we typically see Palatka. It ended up getting dusty down there and just as whooped out as ever. That's a tough track. Every racer refers to it as one of the hardest and toughest tracks of the year, and no doubt that is the case. So now that one, though, is done and, would you say, dusted. Get it? Because it was dusty. But a lot of stuff happened. A lot of storylines to take from the weekend. We'll start things off in our pro and overall division. So, Ben Kelly. First of all, let's talk about Ben Kelly. Ben Kelly is gnarly. Every one of these dudes is gnarly. Don't get it twisted. Stu Baylor, gnarly. Everything went through last year. Fell on the last lap. I know at the end of the race was talking about maybe he broke his ribs. This is Stu Baylor that we're talking about. And then still finishing the race, still getting second place. gnarly. Him and Ben now share the points lead. They're both gnarly. But Ben Kelly, I was standing there at the finish line this time, and he went to get off his bike and started like hobbling, like limping away, barely putting any weight on that leg that he broke last year. And so I got the chance to talk to him a little bit right after the race as he was recovering, to talk about his leg and my leg. He told me he thought that I was getting around well. I looked at him. I said, dude, looks like you're getting around well. You just won a dirt bike race and you can barely walk. So it was gnarly to see. So all the injuries that they go through, all the injuries that everyone is riding through is absolutely insane. I don't understand it. But to go that fast and to get the win was awesome. Just like Stu grabbing the win at the first round. It's just, I don't know. I'm such a fan of the sport. That's the only reason this podcast exists, is because I'm a fan of the sport and recognizing what these people do. And it continues to get pushed by leaps and bounds. It seems like every single race. And so that is why when we started this thing, there was no podcast about off-road. There was hardly any media of off-road. There wasn't the photographers that you see now. There wasn't the videographers that you see now. There wasn't any podcast or any other media outside of race series doing their own media. And I thought that was blasphemy, because we have storylines like this. Ben Kelly can barely walk, and he's winning races on a motorcycle. Stu Baylor last year, with a broken neck, went back to racing, went back to competing, then broke his face, and then still went back to competing. Ricky Russell got a plate in his shoulder 4 weeks before the season opener and got on the podium. And the stories can go on and on. You can go through and tell a story like that about pretty much everyone. Trevor Bollinger is about as beat and banged up as they come. He's not cleared to ride from his leg, and then he went and hurt his shoulder, and he's still lined up to race. It's insane, and it never ends. Thad and Johnny Gerard both broke pelvises last year. Lane Michael has had shoulder issues. Josh Strang battling through an arm that he broke last year at the Wild Boar GNCC that ended up needing 2 surgeries to get it right. Like, the list goes on and on and on. So these dudes are gnarly, and it's seeing things like this and being around and hearing the conversations at the end of the races and hearing their recount of things and hearing them up on the podium. It's like, that's what fuels this fire. That's what keeps me becoming a bigger and bigger fan of this sport each and every single day. And you see the media popping up, and you see the coverage getting greater, and you see the social media followings grow. And it's cool that we have been a part of that. And like, it sounds weird to say that, don't mean in a cocky way, but realistically, like I said, when this thing started, there was nobody else doing it. And now you see other people that start to do it and basically listen to our show and then go say the same thing on their show, and it is what it is. But it's cool because it's more people. They might know some people that I don't know that are going to go listen to that show. And at the end of the day, it all grows the sport, and that was the only thing. That was a rant I didn't plan on going on, but just the pure grit that these riders have to make it through the brutal conditions that is this race, and on a normal, perfectly healthy body. And then you look at it, and you look at the injuries that some of these riders have sustained, and they're still doing it on that. So this past weekend, it was the NFL Combine, and one of the fellas tore his ACL. And everywhere you look on SportsCenter and every media outlet for major sports, they're talking about this guy who tore his ACL and then still went out to bench press. And granted, he did bench press more than anybody else at the Combine this year. It wasn't like a record or anything. But he's like being applauded as like the strongest, most willed player ever, and he could still tear his ACL and go out and bench press. So first of all, you're not using your knee to bench press. I mean, you kind of can plan on the ground and channel a little bit of strength. It's really an upper body workout. Not only that, I wouldn't be surprised if half of this field is racing with a torn ACL right now. And probably more than half of the field has raced with a torn ACL in the past. And the dudes that do tear their ACL and do get surgeries are back in like 2 or 3 months, not 6 months to a year. And it just really puts it in perspective. Like, the NFL guys are making millions, and the off-road guys are on their way to making millions. Let's just put it that way. But, yeah, it's these storylines and seeing these things that really put it in perspective about how much credit every single one of these people deserve. And I say people because it's not just the guys, it's the girls too. The WXC class is heating up. it's been heating up for the past several years. We've talked about the progression of women in racing and the progression of the WXC class to where now it's very rare that a Sportsman A rider overalls the morning race. When just a few short years ago, it was rare if a WXC winner was in the top 10 overall. And so it's the progression of the sport as a whole, especially at the pro level. And just want to see it grow. I want to see these riders get the coverage that they deserve. Could you imagine if SportsCenter got a hold of Stu Baylor breaking his neck and then coming back to racing like 2 months later? Or if Ben Kelly winning a race on a broken leg that was broken not that long ago and a shoulder they had surgery on just a few months ago? Like, these are things that take people out for several years, or at least a year or a season in every other sport. And you got people like Trevor Bollinger fighting to get back to the starting line even with the injuries. And Ricky Russell, 4 weeks after a plated collarbone, on the podium. Where do you see that? Where do you see that anywhere else in all of professional sports? So, I don't know. That was a big old rant. Sorry to start the show off with a rant that big. But anyway, back to the overall results. Ben Kelly gets first place, grabs the win 2 hours and 38 minutes after the race started. We'll get to that here in a second. Stu Baylor ends up on the podium in the number 2 spot, running the white plates. Stu had the points lead after winning Big Buck. He goes and wins Big Buck, second place in Florida. Ben, second place at Big Buck, goes and wins Florida. So now they will share possession of the points lead at 55 points apiece. So will we see dual white plates? I don't know. I guess we will. Why wouldn't we? They're both leading the points. So technically they both have the white plate. Craig DeLong, our guest on tonight's show, ends the day third place overall. And that's one of the things we talked to Craig about is last year, we all know how the season went. This year, everyone's healthy. Everyone's there on the line. Everyone is racing, and Craig is still getting podiums. So that was cool to see, and it was also really cool to talk to him about. So I'm not going to take any of that glory. We'll let Craig tell the story here in just a little bit. Ricky Russell in the number 4 spot just barely missed the podium after being on the podium in Big Buck. And the reigning defending champion Jordan Ashburn rounds out your top 5 riders in that number 5 spot. Looking down at the XC2 class, it was tonight's guest, Ryder Lafferty, going back-to-back. So he's got the white plate in that XC2 class after winning Big Buck, and he will keep it going into round 3 after taking the win in Florida. So we get to talk to him about that as well. You'll hear that here soon. Liam Draper made a push to make his way back up onto the podium in a second place spot this week. And then Lyndon Snodgrass, your third place finisher in the XC2 class, the reigning defending XC2 champion. Also want to give a shout out to Grant Davis. Grant Davis, this is his rookie pro year. Obviously, everyone knows what Grant Davis did on little bikes, and then last year as an amateur rider, but then this year stepping into the XC2 class, changing brands, changing teams. He puts it in 4th place, so just off the podium in that XC2 class for Grant Davis. And then Gus Reardon coming out making a statement this year with the way that he rode at round 1, and then on the podium, and then coming out getting a top 5, keeping the season going in XC2 in the sands of Florida. So that is the way the XC2 class shook up. And then Toby Cleveland goes back-to-back as well. So Toby Cleveland unbeaten on the year. He grabs the XC3 win. And then Jack Walker, your number 2 finisher in that XC2 class, and Dakota DeVore will round out your XC3 class podium. So that is the way that it shook up as far as your afternoon pro classes are concerned. And then real quick before we move on, we'll talk about our top amateur, who was Lane Whitmer, that went out and beat Swole Cole and beat every other amateur this past weekend as he makes his way to the top amateur honors. So Lane Whitmer, your top amateur on the day down in the sands of Florida. So congratulations to him for getting that done. And then Bolton Baroth and Jason Tino will round out your overall amateur podium. So Bolton Baroth, I saw him a few times out there riding. He gave me a couple hoops and hollers as he went by. So stoked to see Bolton Baroth, number 2 spot on that overall amateur podium. Now we move into our WXC class. Corey Steed grabbing the win. So she remains unbeaten on the year as well. So XC2 unbeaten, XC3 unbeaten, WXC unbeaten, and it is Corey Steed that is leading the way in that one. Rachel Archer in that number 2 spot, and Rachel Goodish was your third place finisher on that WXC podium. So that is where your pro classes shook out this past weekend. There was it looked brutal, man. Florida is always brutal. I don't know why, but it looked even more brutal. I don't even know if it's possible to even be even more brutal, but here we are. Now, the thing we mentioned, the overall time was 2 minutes and 38 seconds. 2 hours, 38 minutes, and 53 seconds. You look at the GNCC rules, and it says that pro races will be a minimum of 2 hours and 40 minutes, which that is a really tough one to call, because for those that don't know, they wait for a couple laps to happen, figure out how long those laps are on average, and then they'll make a determination of how many laps you will do, for those that didn't know that. And I did speak with Ricky Towery in the middle of the race, and this time they waited till the third lap before they made a determination between between 5 and 6 laps. Now, granted, I don't think there's a single person out there in the world that raced that race that was upset that the race got cut short. I don't think there is a single person. I don't think Ben Kelly's upset. I don't think Stu Baylor's upset. I don't think Craig Delong's upset. I don't think Ricky Russell, Ryder Lafferty, Liam Draper, Jordan Asher. I don't think anybody's upset. And last year, at the end of that Florida round, it looked like a battleground with everyone just laid out everywhere from heat exhaustion and that kind of stuff. But the rules is the rules. And we've talked about the rules is the rules in the past. And I guess what I wanted to get at is we saw the fine for the loop out at Big Buck. Stu wins, loops the bike out, he gets fined. And the reason I say that is I'm happy. I don't think that – so these are two rules that I'm talking about that I'm okay with the outcome of, but I'm just pointing it out just because the rules is the rules. They cited a rule when they fined Stu that it was reckless riding as so to endanger himself, the crowd, the competitor, however it's written. It's a rule. It's a documented rule. They cited the rule in the fine, and then they fined him. If you'll remember the Buckwheat 100 a couple years ago that took the whole world by storm when that happened, we did a show when we kind of talked about some of the past examples of what had happened when rules were broken. We had riders that were docked a lap. We had riders that were docked a position. We had riders that were docked a position and the people below them moved up a position because of the dock. And we had situations where we had 2 people that got 4th place and 2 people got 7th place because they got docked positions, but nobody got moved up positions. So I guess what I'm getting at is the consistency of it. Like, one time a rule is broken and it's handled this way. Another time a rule is broken and it's handled this way. And now we have, like, the 5th or 6th way, direct rule violation. You don't get docked. You don't move down. Nobody else moves up. We don't take the win. We don't take the points. That was another thing, taking points but not the position. Like switching the points but not the position. So we're not doing any of that. This time we're going to fine you. And then we're going to give the money that we fine you to the board or to a company that you are on the board of. That's sponsor. I don't know. That's besides the point. It did go to a good cause. But it sets another precedent of if you break a rule, what's going to happen? I don't know. You don't know. The rider doesn't know. The team manager doesn't know. No one knows because it could be one of many things. So do you lose a position? Do you lose points? Do you lose money? Does somebody move ahead of you in points? Does somebody not move ahead of you in points? There's absolutely no telling. So it would just be cool to see like something consistent. Like if you do this, then this will happen. If you break these set of rules, you will get this punishment. If you break this rule, you will get this punishment. Because right now it's kind of up for interpretation. Like you don't know what's going to happen. And so now if I'm a pro rider and I cut the track by accident, whether that's the race line, that say it's a mud race, the race line develops, you take the race line, somebody's out there in the woods filming, they follow the new rules regarding filming, film everybody in the class, all that stuff. You get docked. Okay, now you broke this rule that says you can't go more than 25 feet off the track. The first thing I'm doing, if I'm a pro rider, from here on out, is you can't. Why would you take a position? Just find me. Find me. You fine Stu $1,000 for directly violating a rule. Do that. Why are you taking a position from me when you find the last guy? Why are you taking points from me when you find the last guy? Because I guarantee that difference in a win bonus in second place is more than that $1,000 fine. I guarantee the win bonus between second and third place is more than that $1,000 fine. I guarantee the difference between being on the podium and getting any bonus is much different than not getting on the podium and not getting any bonus. So who's to say you can't do that? Well, last time you guys did this. Remember when Stu broke that rule and he got a $1,000 fine? Let's do that. Why are you going to take my position? Because, I mean, what's different about that? What's different between breaking one rule and breaking another rule? There isn't any difference. So, but then it goes back to like the posted rule. Once again, nobody is upset that this race got cut short. Nobody. I don't think there's one person. But if you go to the pro rules on the event organizer's website, it says length 240 to 3 hours. It is a minimum of 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I understand you can't judge that, but when you are judging it and you're looking at that third lap and you're adding up the time, you know that it can be close. You know that it can be a couple minutes sooner. And realistically, it probably looked a lot sooner because the lap times are most likely going to go down. So you know that it could be short. But I don't know. It's just if there's a rule that says it must be at least this and you're in jeopardy of not getting to that, then it seems like you would at least get to the minimum requirement. So I just don't know how stuff like that works. Once again, not faulting anything, not pointing any fingers, not bashing, not upset. Like, I'm just pointing it out. That's all I'm doing, is taking the information, sharing my observance, and that's what I observed. And people were talking about it over the weekend, but once again, I don't think anybody is upset with it, but it's just, what's the point of the rule being there if it doesn't matter? Well, this race, it's Florida. It's the tough one. It's the hot one. People aren't ready for it. So we don't have to follow the rules in this one. Why do you have to follow the rules on the next one? You know what I mean? Why are the rules there? That's the only thing I'm saying. I don't know. And people might get mad at me for saying this. Pro riders might get mad at me for saying this because, like I said, I don't think anybody came off that track and was like, dang it, I wish I could have one more lap. I really want to go again out there. But the rules is the rules. And if the rules are there, why are they there? I don't know. But anyway, like I said, I'm not here. Like, it's tough to say anything. As we mentioned, like, this type of coverage didn't exist before OTP. And so now it's kind of hard to talk about anything because no matter what I do, talk about anything, people are going to take it the wrong way. The people that it affects, maybe the people that made the decisions, maybe the people looking at it, everyone is going to take everything the wrong way. Not everyone, but someone is going to take something the wrong way. And if it's something that applies to them, they're going to be upset about it. And that's just human nature. If someone talked about me, I'm going to get upset about it. And so I understand that. But like I said, all I'm doing is observing and reporting. That's all I'm trying to do. So by no way am I saying that it's a fault or saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying, well, I guess I am saying that it shouldn't happen. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying these things to criticize. GNCC is GNCC for a reason. They are the number one race series by participation in the entire world for a reason. They are the pinnacle of the sport for a reason. But with that comes everything else. Like, I don't know. I think that's the part of media is holding people accountable. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that I pointed out. One of those things that I noticed. But once again, I don't know how many ways I can say it, but it seems like something always gets misconstrued and someone's always going to get upset. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not blaming it on any one person. I'm just saying it would be nice to have some of these solutions fixed. Without competition breeds innovation. And this isn't one of those things, but like I said, before, race promoters did all the marketing for their series. And so obviously you're not going to go out and point out your own flaws or say what's wrong or any of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's more of just like a public forum. And the reason I feel like I need to do these long-winded disclaimers is because I feel bad, because I know these people. I have direct line of contact with the people that run the races. I have direct line of contact with the people that are in the races, the pro riders, all that stuff. And so it's tough in such a small world to say anything without someone taking it personally or negatively. And I don't know. Once again, I hate comparing it to the other sports, but like you look at SportsCenter and hear the stuff that they say about the NFL, that they say about the NBA, the commissioners, the presidents, the team owners, all that stuff. It is light years above and beyond anything that I would ever say about anyone in this sport. And I mean, that's just, it is what it is. But that's such a big conglomeration of people and money and companies to where everyone covers it, and you don't have time to hear everything that everyone is saying, and everyone's a pundit, everyone has an opinion, and you just float it out there, and that's it. Like John Jones won the heavyweight championship of the world. He is the greatest fighter of all time. There's a bunch of people out there that typed a Facebook status that said John Jones is a cheating piece of crap and he sucks at fighting. John Jones is never going to see that tweet. They're never going to have to answer for that tweet, that post, whatever it was. He's just so popular and so talked about that it is what it is, and so it goes by the wayside. So it's different that our world is so small, because anything that I say can and will be held against me. And I don't know. I think that's a big reason why I don't have jobs in the industry or that kind of thing, because I don't know, on one hand, then that limits what you can say and what you can talk about. And I think that's what we need in order to spark change. Just like rider payouts. One big thing that we harped on is rider payouts, raising the rider payouts, raising how much we pay them, raising the percentage. And this year, it kind of went like below the radar a little bit, but GNCC upped their payouts. And I say that term loosely. GNCC, quote unquote, up their payouts. And by that, they're paying more to win. So it's $2,000 to win the overall now at a GNCC, when it was $1,250 last year and the several preceding years before that. It was $1,250 to win. Now it's $2,000 to win. It's $1,500 for second and $1,000 for third. So you look at that on the whole and you're like, that's good. That's progress. I would like to think that blowing that out there and getting it out in the open and getting people talking about it, and you know what, we should raise the payouts. Maybe that did pay in. I would like to think that it played into it. They could turn around and say that they've never listened to the show in their life and that they don't care what we have to say, and that didn't affect it at all. But I would like to think that we started chirping about it and talking about it seriously, and then the next season it gets changed. So it looks good, because second place is getting paid more than you used to get when you won. Third place is getting paid nearly as much as what you used to get when you won. But the overall pro payout is up $50. It was $10,300 last year. Now it's $10,350 for the pro payouts. And I say the pro payouts because it's no longer broken up into XC1 and XC2. It's top 15 overall. So if you're an XC2 rider, what you were getting paid last year to win a race, if you win XC2 and you're 12th place overall, you get $350 because you get paid for 12th place overall. You don't get paid for winning XC2. You get paid for 12th place overall. And so when you look at the overall payout, it went up $50. Yeah, you're paying more to win, but that money is coming out of somebody else's pocket now. And the XC1 guys theoretically should be making the most money off of their team contracts, because that's the first thing you say when you talk about promoter payouts is, well, they make their money through contracts and win bonuses. Well, the guys on contracts and win bonuses are on the front line. And now you're taking money from the XC2 riders that are trying to get to that point. Ryder Lafferty's a great example of this. We talked to him about it in a second. He was working a full-time job until 2020 when he started having success, and then signed with Coastal, and now he's able to do it full-time. So those guys that are working a job and showing up and trying to race XC2 after working a 40-hour work week and then going back to work on Monday, you're taking money from them if they have any success. because now you're not paying for the class. So if you get second place in XC2, you're on the overall podium in XC2, but you're 16th place overall, you don't get paid. Imagine the first time we see an XC2 rider on the podium that doesn't get paid. How is that right? Like, we up the overall payout. Yes, great, it should. And yes, GNCC is paying out more money than any other promoter on an entire basis. If you take their total payout for the 12 rounds that they race and compare that to the total payout of everybody else, in total money, they are paying out more. They're the only ones paying out $200 and something thousand for the year, whatever it turns out to be. But they are also the only ones that are making multi-hundreds of thousands in a weekend. So the percentage is still so out of whack. Like, it's still like less than 1%, but we can digress off of that. It pays more to win a race now, $750 more to win a race. But like I said, that first time an XC1 rider, an XC2 rider doesn't make money and they're on the XC2 podium. Granted, I don't think it would happen. The XC2 riders are usually, all three of them are within the top 10. But I'm just saying, under this new system, there is a possibility that could happen. Even if third place in XC2 gets 15th overall, that's $200 for third place getting on the podium in XC2. And like I said, the redistribution of that win money is affecting the people that need it more. So I don't know. I guess I look at it differently because the numbers, the amount of money through the gate. Now, the gate fee goes up $5. That doesn't seem like a lot. That's a lot. That's 20%. The gate fee goes up 20%. So that means every round, the potential is there to make 20% more. I mean, you have 10,000 people through the gate at an extra $5 a head. That's $50,000 extra. And the pro payout for the winner went up $750, but it went down potentially for the rest of the pro. And also, what the thing, and granted, some people listen to this show now. That doesn't mean that I deserve to be talking about this, but we built it up and people listen, so here I am. Sorry about it. One of the biggest things is we talk about the XC1 row. Last year, there was races where there's 5 people, 6 people in XC1, and then you got 30 people in XC2. And we talk about how do we get people to the front row. It's a conversation that Stu and I talked about on the show several times, or that Stu brought up, is like teams that only have XC2 riders. Like, you need to have potentially an XC1 rider to be on that pro row, to be developing into the sport, to be developing the next row of talent. Is like, what do we do to get people up to the XC1 class? How do we get them out of XC2 and into XC1? XC1 is our premier row. That is the premier guys at the top of the sport. How do we get guys onto that front row? How do we get 20 people racing XC1 and competing against the best in the world instead of staying in XC2 to try to win XC2 and try to top 5 XC2? How do we get people to progress and self-promote themselves up into the XC1 class? And now, this did the exact opposite. Why would you go into the XC1 class? Because you can make the same amount of money from a promoter payout from XC2 as you can in XC1. Because if you win XC2, you get paid off of the overall. So now, why is any XC2 rider going to go up to XC1? Because it used to be XC1 paid out to 10th place. I think XC1 might have even paid out to 15th place at one time. But then it started over with XC2. So then XC2 paid up to 5th place, I believe it was. So that could give riders an incentive. Hey, if I'm getting 10th to 6th, not making any money, maybe I should go up to the XC1 class, race with those guys, get a clean track, pace myself off those XC1 guys, and hopefully they can pull me to higher overalls and pull me to be a better rider, and then I can get in that top 10 in XC1, and I can make some money. It made all the sense in the world. We talked about it with Ben Nelko last year, with him moving up to XC1. Like, hey, you can go up there, you can make some money, you can get the clear track, you can get the race IQ, you can see what those guys are doing, and you're going to be in the money because you're going to be within the top 10. But now, there is no incentive because, I mean, how does this work too? If a 250A rider is top 15 overall, do they get paid out for that spot? Lane Whitmer was 19th place overall. Last year We saw the top amateur getting in the top 10 overall, getting 9th place overall. And that happens quite regular. I would say pretty regularly. Top amateurs within the top 15. So now do they get that money? Does that money get taken away from another pro rider, even though it's a pro payout? Or do they say, all right, well, a 250A rider got 12th place. They're not a pro rider, so they don't qualify for this top 12 overall. So then do they just take that $350 off the board? Like, hey, this rider finished 12th place. They are not a pro rider, therefore that payment gets defaulted. And then 13th place, that is a pro rider, they get their money. Or does the A rider get that money? It seems like that takes away every incentive that there was to fill up that XC1 line. And I think at the end of the day, you would want more people on the XC1 line because that is the premier class, and those are the people that are starting the race, and those are the people out front, and those are the people that we're marketing around, and those are the people that are signing these high salaries to go out and race for their teams. Those are the ones that are getting the introductions on Racer TV, on the live stream. Those are the ones that are in the brochures. Those are the ones that are bringing the semi-trucks to the track. But now you have no incentive to go to XC1 because you can make the same amount of money in XC2 from a rider payout or promoter payout, which, once again, the bulk of the money comes from the teams, comes from the contracts, comes from the win bonuses. Put all that aside. There's XC2 riders that have higher contracts than XC1 riders. It just happens. And I don't know. It's a good time to be an XC2 rider, I guess. Well, I guess if you're not in the top 15, it's a horrible time to be an XC2 rider. But you know what I mean. I digress. But, yeah, those are just a couple things that just wondering about. I don't know. Like I said, I may be completely out of line saying all this, but that's just what I was thinking. And at the end of the day, I'm sitting here talking to myself. So that's what I'm talking to myself about right now, and I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to get to these interviews here. Just want to let you guys know, as always, Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta Motorcycles are the best looking bikes on the market, and they back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or find a dealer near you to get yours today. I'm stoked that me getting my new Beta motorcycle just so happens to line up with, hopefully, when I'll get cleared by my doctor with my broken leg to be able to do things again. So as soon as I get the all clear, hopefully I'll have a Beta machine to jump on and ride and test it out. I'm getting a 4-stroke, so can't wait to test that one out. Told you guys how great I thought the 300 was, so now I just wanted to change it up, try something different. But you should jump on a Beta motorcycle yourself. Head over to betausa.com to find out more about them. This episode is also brought to you, in part, as always, by our good buddy, Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. Zach, as you all know, is a racer and a financial advisor that helps his clients win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. There's never a better time to start planning for your financial future than right now. Go to Financial Advisors, DenverNC.com, and find Zach Tussle on there. Fill out some information. Once again, if you're a listener to OTP and a racer, Zach is a racer as well, you can get a free consultation. Just mention that you're a listener of OTP. He can talk to you about your financial situation and what is going to be the best to benefit you and how he can help you reach your financial planning goals. Or, like I said, if you already got a retirement, you want to move it over to somebody that likes being at the track every weekend just like you do, you can hit Zach up for that as well. But Zach Tussle, shoot him a message, or Financial Advisors, DenverNC.com for more information and a free consultation for listening to OTP. Just let him know. Anyway, that is about all I got. Got some exciting news. Hopefully next week we will be doing the show live on video from our brand new studio. Excited about that. Hopefully, if we can get it all put together. Don't know the answer to that question yet, but that is the plan. That is the goal. And couldn't thank you guys any more for listening to this silly podcast and for following along with OTP. I hope you enjoy hearing from these next couple fellas that we have on here. Craig Delong coming up, Ryder Lafferty right after that. We are back to racing at GNCC this coming weekend in Georgia, so hope to see you guys all there. And yeah, be a friend, tell a friend, let everybody know about On the Pipe podcast. Hit up our store, buy some t-shirts. I'm gonna have t-shirts at the track this weekend, so if you want an OTP t-shirt, hit me up. We'll get you dialed in, or go on our website and you can order one directly through there. It all goes to a good cause to keep the ball rolling and keep this podcast coming at you. So appreciate you listening. Appreciate you being a part of the OTP family. And we will see you this weekend. I hope you enjoy these interviews. And also, there's a YouTube video up from the Florida GNCC. If you want to check it out, kind of try a little documentary style at the beginning. Don't know how I feel about it. I thought it was kind of cool, but hopefully we can do that in Georgia. If it's something you guys want to see, check it out. Search for On the Pipe Podcast on YouTube, and you can see that video there. It's raw riding clips, but just with a little bit of interviews there at the beginning. But thanks as always. We will catch you probably next week. So now we're going to be joined by our first guest of the evening. Third place overall on the day. Third place XC1. Led a couple laps on the day as well. Craig Delong. Craig, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate you taking some time out to chat. I feel like there's been a whole lot that has happened in Craig Delong's career since the last time we spoke on here. So there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a couple months, I think. But yeah, just it's been a busy couple weeks. You know, the racing's obviously started, so it's yeah, we're in it now.
Oh, yeah, right in the thick of it. Especially, it really slaps you in the face that racing season's here with 2 and 3, like going back-to-back weekends at GNCC.
Yeah, before you know it, you're 5 races in. It's crazy. Like, we had Sumter, and then I guess it was only 2 weeks from Sumter to Big Buck, and then another 2 weeks, and yeah, we're already, if you count the Enduro, we're already almost 4 races in, which is crazy. It felt like we were just finishing up Ironman, a month ago. So
yeah, it's like Ironman finishes, and you gotta be thinking like, oh man, we got this big old off season. And the next thing you know, it's like a photo shoot, testing, first race, and then, like you said, right in the middle of it.
Yeah, it comes fast, that's for sure.
Yeah, but Florida is a brutal one, and then it always happens that Georgia's the next weekend, and so the only race of the year that you only get, or the only time that you only get 1 week of recovery for GNCC is after probably the most brutal race of the year. So how we feeling? How's the body feeling on Tuesday?
I don't feel terrible. I'm definitely sore. Yesterday I was walking around like a decrepit old man, kind of just limping around and trying to stay busy and get loosened up. But Mondays are always tough after a race, and Tuesdays are sometimes even worse, but I feel overall better than I did yesterday. Just the spots in my body that are sore are more sore than they were yesterday. So it's kind of confusing, but I do feel better, but I don't in certain places. So,
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Florida that place is gnarly. You know what to expect going into it, and it's, you think that it's like, oh, I'm ready, I'm prepared, but man, I don't think you can do anything to be fully prepared for that race. It's brutal, especially like the heat and how hot it was yesterday. That kind of snuck up on us because, during the week it was like Sunday was supposed to be, high 70s, and I think it was, maybe high 80s. I'm not really sure, but just hot, and the sand whoops are obviously like no other place, but yeah, it's a race like no other, that's for sure.
I do feel like there was a little bit lying with the weatherman and the temperature that it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I could definitely feel that waking up Sunday morning for sure. I'm like, we're already past the 78 degrees or whatever they were calling for, at least when I checked.
Yeah, by the time the 10 a.m. race started.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, we're in for it.
Dang. Does training right down the road, like at Caleb's place and everything that you guys are doing there, does that obviously you raced Florida before you started training there, and now you've raced Florida a couple times after racing there. Does it help going into this Florida round?
Uh, yeah, I would say more just yeah, I would think just for the sand is somewhat similar, so it's easier to kind of set your bike up in certain aspects, I think, for myself. But the track at Caleb's does not any doesn't remotely come close to how the race is for sure. Like how it develops, like our practice tracks, like the whoops of the race get so steep and like peaky where at Caleb's like there's only, maybe 10 of us, and the whoops, they're rounded because there's a little bit more of a faster group, so the whoops are rounded. And yeah, so it's just a little bit different setup wise, like for the race. I mean, not setup wise, but just the practice track compared to the race. So
You mean to tell me that there's a difference in the way the track breaks down with 11 of the fastest guys in the world versus like 800 C-class riders?
yeah, believe it or not, yeah, it's crazy, but overall, it does help being right down the road. I mean, I had my camper at his place, and I stayed in my camper, and I just drove down the road in the morning, So it was nice. It was like I was kind of staying at home with home on wheels. So that made things a little bit better because it was comfortable. You didn't have to load up and go to the race and unload everything again. And so it was nice in that aspect as well.
The one thing that I've always wondered is like training down there and training in the sand. Like, there's really only one race that's even remotely similar throughout the year. I guess Sumter can break down, but nothing like Florida. And then Camp Coker is sandy, but still nothing like Florida. Like, does training down there in the off season, like training in that sand, does that? I mean, what's it like? Is it kind of like jump starting the fitness, so then when you go back to dirt, everything is good? Or like, I mean, what's your opinion on training on that stuff throughout the whole off season, and then now that Florida's done, it's like there's really not another track that's going to be similar to that.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, for this year with having a new bike this year, I was hoping to get into the dirt a little more before Big Buck, and it just never quite progressed to that point to be able to have the time to go up early. We just didn't have the resources or the team. They've been struggling getting parts and stuff with how things are in the world. So
Yep.
just kind of it was really nobody's fault to go up, try to get up there. I mean, I did ride one day before Big Buck in the dirt, and that was enough. And but I would have liked it, a couple more days for sure. But honestly, now like I don't being in the sand all winter, that doesn't affect me too much. I like being able to get up in the morning and not have it be 40 degrees and raining and like dealing with like wet red clay or mud or anything like that. Like in Florida, you get up and most times it's 60 degrees in the morning, and you can like you're motivated to do stuff. Like where when it's 40 degrees, you're like, I want to go sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. So I just like it from a motivation standpoint. Like it's easier to get outside and get stuff done. And, if it was rainy or cold and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I guess sand for sure holds up better for rain than if you were riding in clay or something that day too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
less wear and tear on the bikes and everything like that. So
yeah, I can see that. And plus, like you said, already being in the heat, getting acclimated to it. So then you come up to Big Buck where people coming down from the north, they might think that it's hot at Big Buck when you guys are like, man, it's kind of chilly out today.
yeah, it was funny because my parents came down for Big Buck, and they're like, man, it's really nice. And it was like, I don't know what point it was a Big Buck, but I'm like, I remember like cycling the track on, I think it was Sunday morning, and I had like 2 sweatshirts on and a jacket, and I was like freezing cold. I'm like, man, this is miserable.
Man, so how does it go from here? Like, do you guys I mean, the same group, do you guys transition up to his place in North Carolina, or kind of as the series starts moving north, do you go back to PA? Like, how does the rest of your year look?
Yeah, so after Georgia, we'll go to North Carolina, and at least how it was last year, I was at his place in North Carolina for I think it was about a month, and I went home after Camp Coker. Um, yeah, Camp Coker, because I think after Camp Coker, I had an enduro in Virginia, and it was like 3 hours from my house. So I was like, I'm gonna go home and ride home, and then I'll just go, base myself from home. But it's usually about a couple weeks after Georgia. We'll be there just till it starts to get nice, and where we live, and then we'll go back, to our houses, and then we do go back and forth occasionally. Like I went to his place probably 3 or 4 more times until summer break. So it's kind of back and forth and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So it keeps progressing throughout the year. But man, let's get into this race. I guess after Big Buck, one of the things that you mentioned, and just getting it from your social media post, is talking about getting more aggressive on that first lap. And this race down in Florida, you got pretty damn aggressive on that first lap. You were out in front. You led the first half of the race, really, when you look at it. And you kind of had a good little bit of gap. I know the times that I saw you, like you were the first one to me, and then there was like a little bit of time before we started seeing the rest of the pack come through. So it looks like you were able to get out in front and kind of put some distance on them boys at the beginning of the race. So going from being more aggressive on the first lap to getting aggressive, leading those first couple laps, where are you at now, like heading into the next one? Did you like being out front? Did you like building up that gap? I mean, was it kind of a coast mode? Like, what's the racecraft after two drastically different starts to your races this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being out front was way better than where I started at Big Buck. Um, and by aggressive, like on the first lap, I just honestly like my biggest thing was the start. Like I'm kind of a puss on the start, if I'm being honest, or I can be. And that's where you need to be like the most aggressive, I feel like. And I just, for some reason, when I get in those situations, I just like, get shy, or I used to, and just kind of got fed up with it, and just told myself like if I go down, I go down, and I got a good jump, and just kind of stayed in my line and got into the woods in second, and then Nelko took off, and like, man, you can have it. Like he was sprinting really hard, and I'm like, I know how this race is gonna go. Like it's hot and it's rough, and so I let him do his thing, and he kind of got me. He was probably 15 seconds that checked out, like 2 miles into the race, and it was like around the 6 mile marker. He had gotten off the trail and got caught into some vines and stuff, and I took over the lead, and I didn't really push too hard. I was trying to like, just hit my marks and, be smooth and not, blow myself up with, arm pump or, make a mistake where I was crash and, go to the back. So I just kind of hit my marks, and I kept getting pit boards saying that, the lead was getting a little bit bigger. And the last pit board that I got was like plus 15. And I think the dust, the first lap, it had a little bit to do with it. Like, just they were kind of in that dust zone, so that helped. And but no, obviously, like being up front it's way better than coming from the back. That's for sure. And definitely gonna try to do that more often.
Yeah. So like on the starts, when you're talking about like kind of backing off of it, is that like a subconscious thing, like at the beginning, like starting up, or like if you get a good jump and you're going into the first turn, you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to be in a 8 bike pile up in the first turn.
Yeah, I think it's just like a timid thing, like I'm not a very like aggressive person, I guess you could say. Like I'm just kind of like laid back and mellow, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. And I feel like sometimes that's a downfall, and like I need to, change my mentality. And yeah, I mean, obviously, crashing in the first turn isn't ideal, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So that's kind of my mentality now is like I need to just go in there and not be the one that's getting pushed around and try to do some pushing around myself. So
There you go. Get in there, man. Throw some elbows. Kick the
yeah,
feet
right.
out.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Just it's a mindset thing, and that's something that I've been working on, and I feel like it's getting there. So
So, and pardon me if this seems like a rude question or whatever. I don't mean it that way. Just kind of listening to you talk and everything. Like, did part of that go from like being at the top of XC2, winning the championship and all that kind of stuff, to then moving up to the XC1 class? Was there ever a thought of like, hey, I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Not that like you don't belong getting the whole shot and belong reading or leading the races early on, but was there any of that, like kind of going through the rookie season and stuff, like being timid on the start, like, hey, these are the veterans, let them up front. Like I don't want to be up front yet. Was there any of that going on?
at first, like last year, for sure. I was. I'm not really a young guy in the class. I'm 26. I'm not super young.
Yeah,
Um,
you can't even be on your parents' insurance, man. You're getting old.
yeah, I know I'm getting the shaft, but no, but it's just like one of those things where like take Josh Strang for example. Like when he won his championship in 2010, I was still on a youth bike, and like I was, I wasn't even going to the GNCCs at that time, and then like I went to the GNCCs and I was watching like Strang and Caleb, which I didn't get the race with Caleb, but I was watching these guys and I was still on a youth bike, and it's like, and then you line up last year and it's like, I'm starting right next to Strang, and it's like almost like it was like I don't know, like a surreal moment, I guess you want to call that. Like it's like, man, I was just watching this guy 10 years ago, and now I got to race him, which was obviously really cool, and something I always wanted to do. But it's like I had to. I wasn't in the right, like, not that I didn't take it serious, but like I wasn't like, as aggressive as I probably should have been to some of those older guys, just because they were maybe people that I looked up to when I was younger, and I just kind of, I don't know, just like a fan of them, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. So just a different mentality that you have to change.
Yeah, man, that's got to be a surreal moment. Like heading to the race on the weekend on mini bikes, you're like playing with your friends, and then you go up to the start line, and now those same guys you were watching going around that first turn, you're right there in the first turn with them, battling for a paycheck.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, honestly, and that's something that I had to to work through and fix.
Well, it looks like you're on your way now, and the reason that I asked that too is because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously you would know way better than I do, but just from the outside looking in, it seems like I mean, you were forced up to that front row, and being up there, it seems like you have grown in leaps and bounds as far as like racecraft, overall finishes, and the way that you race. And it seems like being up in that crowd kind of sparked that. Racing with them all last year, going into this year. I mean, you got second place in points last year. You were pretty consistent on the podium last year. And it's like, so now you got to be at that point where like you really got to feel like you belong in the XC1 class, right? I mean, second place in points.
No, yeah, I definitely do feel like I belong up there for sure. Um, that obviously my goals last year, I didn't expect to get second starting the year. Obviously, the first race, there everybody was there, and we all know what happened. But towards the end of the year, like those last couple of rides, I was, a consistent podium guy. And I feel like after Ironman, I feel like I earned my second place because I was in the fight actually for, podiums, and I almost won that one in Ohio. And I feel like at that point in the season I was earning my points or my results, and which was good. That was a big mental switch for myself, just to, you know, say that I could do it. I wasn't just getting my positions because people were out hurt. So, um, yeah, that was a big change for me, and definitely a big confidence booster for sure. Just coming in the off season, knowing that I can be there regardless who's on the starting line, which is a nice thing to be able to think about, and to know you belong there.
Dude, 100%. And that's got to be even more gratifying when you look at the results from this past weekend, because everyone's not hurt. Everyone is healthy. I mean, the who's who was on the front row. Like, everyone was there. I don't think we're missing any names unless I'm having a brain fart. I mean, 13 of you, and Tyler Medaglia races a few of them at the beginning, but I mean, he was the only name that's not a regular guy in that XC1 class, and you're on the podium.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's definitely nice to see. That's for sure. All the hard work this last year and this off season is starting to show, for sure.
Well, sweet. Now you got leading some laps and stuff too. We gotta get up there and get that win. Last year you got close. Burr Oak, second place, leading into the white flag lap. Like, what were your thoughts going into that one, and how close you got to a win there?
Yeah, I kind of obviously it's looking back, it's like a shoulda, woulda, coulda thing. But yeah, that one was one that got away. Obviously, I had a good pit strategy. I'm pretty easy on gas, and was able to kind of get those guys on strategy, and gave me a little bit of a buffer going into the last lap. And um, I don't know. I might have pushed too hard in the beginning of the lap, and kind of blew myself up a little bit. And Jordan was able kind of to regroup and to run me back down. And um, yeah, it was just I was kind of flustered when he called me, just because I'd never led at that point. So I was like, first time leading, and it was the last lap, and it was a bunch of different emotions, and my mind was kind of wandering a little bit. It was tough to kind of stay you know in the moment. And yeah, he just caught me slipping on a bad line. I followed a lapper and too long, and he didn't make his own line, but there was a line there that I had missed, and he capitalizes on it, and got around me, and I wasn't able to get him back, obviously. So, but I learned a lot that day, and definitely a learning experience. Something that I think we all go through. To before you get your first win, for sure. And you have to pay your dues, I guess both people call it. So yeah, but that was one where I kind of kicked myself in the butt for, because I kind of feel like a couple different things, and a straighter focus. I feel like I could have had that one.
Man, and that's gotta be tough too, because, but it also, like you said, kind of teaches you a lesson. And granted, it doesn't feel like the easy way to learn a lesson at the beginning. But I mean, was there any part of you that thought back to that, like leading at the halfway point of this race, like, hey, let's settle it down, let's calm down, let's maintain this lead? I mean, did any of that cross your mind this past weekend when you were out in front?
No, no, not during the race, for sure. Um, Honestly, it was different because when I was leading last year, it was the opposite parts of the race. I was last two laps, last lap and a half, and where this weekend it was the first two and a half. So it was a little bit not different, but a little bit. And so I tried to, and I know how far it is. So I didn't want to overexert myself too soon,
Yep.
because I didn't want to be that guy that you know put on the heavy fade at the end.
Yep.
So looking back now, not that I should have pushed a little harder, but there's some places where I feel like I kind of slipped up a little bit, for sure.
So from lap 2 to 3, you go from first to fourth. What happened on that third lap?
So I pit on the second. Well, I guess it would have been the beginning of the third lap.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
pits were right after the finish line.
Yeah, so I had to pit, and so Ben and Johnny pit also, but Ricky didn't have to pit. So when I was pulling out, Ricky was literally, going down pit road, and he hopped in right behind me, and I could tell he was wanting to go and wanting to push, and I knew the pace was going to pick up, and the pace that I had been running, I was being conservative and being smooth, and hitting my marks, and Ricky was in like a sprint pace kind of, and the pace picked up from the pit to, he got by me around like the 3.5 or the 4, and I held him off for a little bit, but I'm like, man, he really wants to go, and he got up alongside me, and I didn't really put up much of a fight, and then I let him, lead, and it was he really picked it up, and just took me a little bit to kind of get into that pace, because the pace that I was running for the 2 laps before was a little bit different. So, and sometimes after a pit stop, it's you kind of, that 10-second pause is sometimes will throw you out of your rhythm a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the pace was just a little bit more than what I was running, so I was kind of like, it was like almost like a shock, not a shock, but kind of, and just kind of flustered me a little bit, and I was making little mistakes here and there, and Ben and Johnny had caught me, and they were, we were all 4 together, so just kind of had to regroup and get back comfortable, and start hitting my lines right and not making mistakes. And it took me a little bit, but I kind of, that part of the race, I feel like I kind of mismanaged a little bit. I feel like it could have been handled a little bit differently, but it is what it is.
Hey, man. I mean, all in all, it sounds like you're reflecting on some things that could have, should have, would have been done differently, and maybe some parts of your race you wish you could have back. But I mean, all things considered, even with all that, you still end up on the box. And like I said, everybody's in the field, everybody's out there racing. So it's still got to be a good feeling no matter what.
Oh, of course, for sure. It's anytime you get on the podium and make a little extra money, and it's always welcomed. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. But man, I know you got some dinner plans and everything tonight, so I appreciate you taking some time out and talking with me. The one thing I wanted to ask you, and we'll kind of end it on this note, and it's just something that I was curious about. And I don't know if you heard it, but one of the times I had Strang on the show, I don't remember when it was, but one thing that Strang was talking about is him switching to number 17 this year with his injuries. He ended up finishing 17th in the season, his 17th year, so on and so forth. But one of the things that he talked about when he was telling us about his number switch was about people not running the earn number and more running the career number. And you specifically, he brought up, because he reflected back to his years getting second place and running that number 2 and showing you got second place or close to that championship. Was there any part of you that wanted to run the number 2 this year versus the career number? And do you have a say in that? Like, would you prefer to run your career number, or did you want to run the number 2 this year?
I wanted to run the career number, to be honest with you. Just kind of, there's really no specific reason why. It's just kind of, I just wanted to.
Just looks right.
Obviously,
right.
no, yeah. Like number 2 is obviously pretty cool, but it's I feel like a career number is maybe a little bit I don't want to say beneficial, but I guess people always talk about, an image or like not your brand, but like you get more recognition. Like I feel like when you have the same number year after year, like people will remember you because not everybody goes to every race. So you go to, say we go to like High Point or the Mason-Dixon, for example, like maybe half the fans, I don't know how by a number, but not everybody that goes to the Mason-Dixon is going to go to Ironman or Florida or Georgia, like so it's like that number is kind of will carry through each year if that makes sense. So it's like you're more recognizable at each location, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
So
for I feel like there's a small portion of people that travel to every GNCC event throughout the year, and like you said, a lot of people they go to a GNCC because it's their local one, like it's a yearly tradition. Like, oh, GNCC's coming to an hour away from us, we all got to go. And so I completely understand where you're coming from as far as keeping that recognition, but I remember you running the 8. I remember you running the 10.
yeah,
Now all of a sudden you're a
I
career number guy. When you got a number 2, you could run.
yeah, I know. I was that guy, and um, maybe next time, but for this time, I just wanted to run the 342, and I I got a couple of text messages because when they did the number um requests and stuff, I didn't put in the request for my number like the 342 like super early, or actually I guess I missed the deadline actually, and so they gave me number 2, and people were like looking at the numbers for next year, and I got a bunch of texts because they gave me number 2. And they're like, "Oh, you running number 2 this year?" And I'm like, "No, I just didn't do the request thing and all this stuff." And but some of the people that texted me, they were kind of bummed about it, and um, I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. But maybe next time in the future, I can maybe change it up and run it. So, but yeah, I mean, number 2 is cool. I would maybe in the future, but not right now.
Hey man, if you get a number 1 plate, it takes the choice out of it, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of my thinking actually.
There you go. Keep the career number until it turns to a 1.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. A good motivation, right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, like I said, it just he brought it up, and it's just a question that I've been meaning to ask. But like I said, dude, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Congratulations for grabbing the podium this weekend, and look forward to seeing the rest of your season unfold.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on. It's always good to sit down and chat and shoot shit. So glad I could be on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate having you on. And now, I think what we learned is aggression. So maybe we gotta get somebody out in the woods and slap you up a little bit, coming in the pit stop, get you fired up.
Yeah, it's my old team manager Timmy Wigan. He used to always try to fire me up every race, just doing different things, and it would work sometimes. But I feel like now I can I can do it myself. I can get into that zone. So yeah, I don't know if I need to. I don't think I need to be slapped out there in the middle of the woods. Maybe it would help, but I don't know. I don't think I quite need it. So.
All right. Well, good deal, man. Good luck this weekend, and we'll see you then.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
See ya. All right, so now we are going to go to our final guest of the evening of tonight's show. Back-to-back XC2 winner, XC2 points leader, Ryder Lafferty. Ryder, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Everything's been going good.
It sounds like it, man. Ryder's been riding, and we've been watching.
Yeah, I don't think I could do any better. It's been, I don't know if I really expected this. I think everybody, on the starting line wants to win every time they're out there, but it's only 2 races, like it's still early, but definitely a good start to the season, even National Enduro wise with a second, to start the year. So it's been good.
That's what I was about to say, man. Not only just 2 races, we got 3 races because you got the second place at National Enduro down at Sumter to start things off. And, I mean, you were right in the mix with the title for National Enduro, the overall title last year. And then right in the mix with the XC2 title, or second place on the year last year in XC2. And you kind of took my first question away from me. I was going to ask, like, was this expected? If someone told you a couple weeks ago, hey, man, you're going to be second place at Sumter and win the first 2 GNCC rounds, what would you have said?
I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, I would expect it, but there's a lot of good guys nowadays. You can't count anybody out, and everybody's riding good. There's no secrets. Everybody's on point with their training and is riding good. So you going into a season, it's kind of hard to judge. Like, you want to win, but you never know. Like, there's could be a guy that's also riding really good, and that's like kind of Jordan or the first round at Big Buck. Lyndon was riding really good, and he we went down to the wire, down to the end, and he almost, if I made one slip up, he would have had it. So it's kept me on my toes for sure.
Dude, that was I was standing right there when you guys came through because I knew it was going to be close heading into that final lap because the last point I saw you guys at, it was close. And, I mean, that thing, it came down to the wire, just like you said. And I made a YouTube video this past weekend's race, but I kind of talked to Lyndon about that, about where the pass was made and how that last lap went. But, like, your side of things, how did that race end up, and, like, what was going through your mind that second part of the last lap?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I think, like I've said it before, I think I caught those guys, Lyndon and Gus, a little bit surprised. I don't think they knew I was that close. But when I seen them, it was at the end of with 2 to go, I caught, and then going into the white flag, they were right there. And I was like, if I'm going to do it, white flag, I got to, I know it's hard to make a pass on the last lap. So I was like, I wanted to get it done early on the last lap and kind of charge away and have a good clean last lap. And that's what I did. I kind of snuck up there and had a line and got around him, and then Lyndon came and he was right on my heels the whole rest of the last lap. He was right there. So it was intense, but it was good racing for sure.
Yeah, and so I was looking it up. I wrote this down. I was just trying to confirm it real quick. Your last lap was the fastest lap on the track. Did you know that?
I didn't. Well, I don't know, because it was kind of like with the whole Stu thing and taking out the scoring. Like, I wasn't sure of what, how fast, if it was. I seen that it was like at least like top 3 XC1, but I didn't know because of Stu's messing up stuff and like what Ben's last lap was. I was kind of confused with how, with Stu taking out the scoring. It was kind of all a scramble, So I wasn't sure, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there is that. I forgot about that part. And then as I say that, I look back and see all the whole numbers and the timing and scoring where they're like, I think this is right.
Yeah. So it was like, it was funny. Like, I came through and I won. I like rode my bike, and like Lyndon was right there, and they interviewed Lyndon. Like, they thought he won, and he was like, nope, second place, like Ryder won. And like, even the scoring people, like Racer TV, they didn't even know that I won. They thought Lyndon won because he was leading going into that last lap because the scoring was messed up. So it was funny, but yeah, all good.
Dang. Well, hey, turning some heads, man, making a statement, going out there, grabbing the points lead.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I kind of it was pretty quiet. Like, I don't think a lot of people were really talking about me going into this year, or, and that's how I like it to be. Like, I'm a quiet guy. I stay out of the hype and all the stuff, and just kind of do my own thing and put in my work. And, going into it, even I was way back. I mean, I could see the leaders. Like, there was a big train of XC2 guys at Big Buck. We were all together, and I was just right there. I wanted to wait until later to make a push, and that's what I did. I kind of got stuck behind some guys, and like my team manager Barry gave me a pit board, like, you need to get around him, you need to go. And it kind of woke me up, and I was like, he's right. Like, I was getting held up, and Lyndon and Gus were getting away. So right timing, and I went for it.
Is that XC1 guys you're talking about?
No, it was XC2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's so those were a couple of the questions I had. So you at lap 2, you were 6th. So you really picked your way up through the pack to get the win at Big Buck. But that's what I was wondering, if it was like when you catch up to the XC1 guys and you're trying to pick your way through them, how do you make that determination of whether or not like one of those guys are holding you up, especially like while you're leading the race? Like, do I ride this pace and tag along, or do I get around them because I know I can go faster?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like I kind of had that this past weekend in Florida because I caught up to I went 3 laps. I didn't pit. I know a lot of people got gas after 2 laps. I went 3, and doing that, I caught up to some XC1 guys. Like I caught up to Grant, caught up to Strang, and I got together with Grant Baylor, and he was riding good. Like I got right to his where I could just see him, and I followed him in the back in the bike only stuff in the single track, and he was ripping. I'm like, I'm good. Like I'm just gonna let him tow me around, and then towards the end of that lap, I think lap 3, he was like, he let me by, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna go. And then I crashed like 2 turns after he let me by. He went back around, and then he let me by again. Like I felt bad. Like I don't want to mess up their race too,
Yeah.
But they're like those guys. They know the deal. Like if they most of them they hear you coming, they can tell it's a 250 coming up on them. They'll let you by, and they're pretty good about it. So it's cool. Like getting able to latch on to those guys and ride with them. It's just different, I never experienced that XC1 kind of thing, so it's pretty cool to get up in there.
Yeah, and that's like, it seems like you guys keep working your way physically farther and farther up into the XC1 rows, or like earlier on in the races. So that's one thing I was just sitting there wondering, like, hey, I wonder when you make that determination of like, hey, I caught them, I'm staying with them, maybe I should go around them.
Yeah, that's what, because I was kind of in no man's land a little bit this past weekend. Like, because I went 3 laps, didn't pit, and I knew like John, he had the pit. He's on the 2-stroke, and a couple of those other guys were playing catch up. They were farther back, so I was like by myself, and I've never really led a race that early, like on the second laps. Especially Florida, I was wanting to kind of hang back and just kind of chill and save it for the end of the race. But I was like, heck with it, I'm gonna go, and I got with Grant and Strang and all those guys, and then once they let me around, like I was like, all right, I'll lead for a little bit, and they'll probably get back around me, and then they kind of fell off, or I got away from them. Like I talked to Grant, and he's like, dude, you're riding good. So I pulled away from them, and yeah, it was a good ride.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned Jonathan Johnson. I mean, he had a good ride this weekend. Like, what was it like up there? Seeing Johnny was the one mixing it up front.
It was cool. I mean, I let it. I was like, go for it, bud. Like two stroke was ripping. It was singing out there, and I was just following him along, and he was riding really good. Like I was like, kind of like, all right, this is weird because like a lot like we weren't really, usually XC2 is like a big train of guys. There's a lot of fast guys, and like
Yeah.
we kind of broke away, and it was just me, John, and then like a couple seconds later, like there was a group behind us, and I was like, do I go? Do I pass them? Do I go now? Do I wait? And I was just like, yeah, go. Like I let John go for it, and he was ripping. So he even hung with me for a little bit after I got around him. So he was riding good. I think he had some bike problem. I talked to him after, something subframe or something like that. But yeah, I think he would have been close to getting on that podium if it wasn't for having bike problems.
Dude, he was right there. I can't get into to too much of it due to my obligations with people, but
Yeah.
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 That was a bummer. I know that was a hard letdown. But I mean, for you, like you said, couldn't start the season any better. End of last season, you had some shoulder issues, and I know that kind of kept you out a little bit. How are you feeling? Like how's the body feeling? How are we heading into the season physically?
I feel good. It was a little bit like this winter. I got some stuff checked out, and like shoulder was definitely messed up. both my shoulder. I don't have a good shoulder. Both of them are kind of jacked, but
I know that
just
feeling.
kind
Used
of.
to have a good and a bad. Now I got a bad and a worse.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. I feel like dirt bikes. It's either shoulders or knees, and with me it's shoulders. So, but it's been good. Like rehab and stuff. Like we hit the gym pretty hard this winter, and I feel like that's a big. It's really good to kind of keep up on it and keep your strength, get my strength in the shoulders. So it's just kind of preventative. Like you hit them and they're strong. Like nothing's gonna happen. Like prevent it as best you can. So I've been feeling good. Like me and Ben were joking around. We all joke around here at Ranch Russell. It's like 1 week we're good, and then some like next week it's like something like crazy happens, and like your arm's hurting. That's like just random. Like
Mm-hmm.
for example, I had it was last week was our off weekend. The other boys were at the sprint, and like we went kayaking on Sunday. I went fishing in the morning with Jeff Russell, then went kayaking with everybody here. Went to like this cool place, kayaked downstream, and then all the way back up. We were just like steady paddling the whole way back. I got back, and then I went fishing again here. And when I got back from that, like I could barely move my shoulder, and it was my off day. I'm like, dude, I wasn't even riding or doing anything. Like didn't even go to the gym or nothing, and I jacked my shoulder up. But it was like weird. It was like a tingling, weird feeling. I don't know. And it was my better shoulder. So, but that was like I was kind of worried about it going into the race, but it was all good. Kind of just ice and rehab, and it was dialed. So.
It's weird how little stuff. Like go out and win a couple races, no big deal. But go fishing, go kayaking, can't move the arm.
Yeah. I guess it's coming with the age. I used to be, young kid, and now I'm getting up there, so it's catching up with me.
Oh man, I know too much about that. I'm trying to fight it the best I can, but my body keeps reminding me of the truth. But
I hear you.
no man. So I heard you talking about fishing and stuff after the race this past weekend. But I mean, talking about this offseason, you mentioned down there at Ranch Russell doing that whole thing. This was your first year down at Ranch Russell, as you were just telling me a minute ago. How's that been? Like, especially that compared to what you normally do in your offseason? Like, how much different is it? And how do you think that has affected you or gotten you ready and prepared for the season being around that group?
Yeah, it's been good. Definitely a little bit different. I was a little skeptical about it, like when it came about last year. Like I was like, I don't know if I want to go. Like I know Ricky didn't go, with Coastal last year, and I just kind of trained with Ricky last year and just did the same thing he did. But it's definitely more structured. I was scared of it because I was like, oh, this is like going to be drill sergeant out in Baker type stuff. I'm not going to be able to eat certain food and stuff like that. And yeah, there is, certain stuff like that, but it's not that. Like, as long as you do what you're told and you do what they say, it's good. And like, you have to make that sacrifice. Like, the way I look at it, like, you do what they tell you to do. Don't do anything else or don't do more. You're on the right path to doing good and seeing the results. So it's been awesome. I can't complain. I got these guys. It's 6 of us. So me and I'm the only pro XC2 guy. I mean, Grant Davis is here as well, and then Craig DeLong, Trevor Bollinger, Johnny Gerard, Ben Kelly, Thad Duvall, my teammate. It's been cool. It's been fun riding with them guys. Like I think like last year, I didn't really have a whole lot of guys to chase. Like it was, some amateur guys, and Ricky was kind of hurt, so I kind of rode by myself most of the time. But this year down here, it's been good to have those XC1 guys to kind of run down and kind of compare myself to them and just see what they're doing. And, you kind of realize they're normal people just like all of us. They put their pants on the same way and just do the work. So.
And it's proven to work with everything they're doing down there. I know Jacob Fetty, a big part of it and kind of planning out the stuff. But how competitive do you guys get out there? Like, is there a posted fastest lap time, or like how competitive does it get between, especially like with you being an XC2 guy and you're chasing around all these XC1 guys? Like, how does the normal practice day go? And have you gotten the best of them? Are you putting down the fastest lap times? How's it going down there?
Yeah, we're not like, I don't know. It's like competitive off the bike, but it's not really that competitive. Like, yeah, I think we all want to have the fastest time through when we're riding, but some days I do, like, because I rode the 350 a lot this winter, just because down here in the sand it's kind of miserable to ride a 250. So, and getting ready for the enduros and stuff, I rode the 350 a lot, so it's kind of equal playing field with me and the other guys. So a couple times I get the better of them, but those are like Johnny and BK was riding good, Craig rides good, Thad, they're all fast. Like, it's tough. Everybody has their day, but I'd say we're more like, they're more competitive, like ping pong, or like in the gym, like stuff like that, like just silly stuff. Like, we're pretty competitive with that stuff, like reaction time and doing stuff like silly stuff like that. It's pretty competitive, but everybody's kind of chill and just does their work on the bike.
Who's the big ping pong guy who rules the roost down there?
It's not even, he's not even a rider. It's some guy, Caleb Russell. He's pretty competitive at everything he does, and he's pretty good at it too. I kind of stay away from anything, like, he's good at golf. I don't want to golf with him. He doesn't like fishing, so I got that. I can go with his dad, but like, he's good at ping pong. Craig's pretty good at ping pong. I haven't played much ping pong because I know I'm not very good. Bowling as well. We did some bowling. I'm not good at bowling. Thad and Caleb have their own bowling ball and like a glove and everything. They're like,
really, they're showing up with the bag and everything.
Yeah. Caleb's pretty serious about it, so I stay away from that. I'm just there to have a good time and kind of get away from everything.
Dude, I can just imagine like that whole group, like all you guys at a bowling alley somewhere, and then just the group next to you, like just having no clue that these are like the best motorcycle riders in the world, just bowling next to them.
Yeah. I mean, and like, we're in Palatka, Florida. I don't know if you've been around Palatka, but it's not the nicest place around. I mean, we kind of fit in kind of trashy as well. Like, they don't really they don't pay any attention to us.
That's awesome, man. So with all that stuff going on, and how often you're kayaking, how often you're going fishing, how have you not learned? You got to park one upstream and then another truck downstream. Then you just fish all the way down and then load them up and drop back up.
Yeah. Well, I don't even have a kayak right now. Like, we just rented kayaks, and it was like just kind of like this cool like Silver Springs like sightsee kind of thing. I didn't even fish there. We just went to, like, it was like almost like Caleb was like joking around, like, wear the heart rate straps and like get a workout in, like, kayaking, but we didn't really. We just kind of went to sightsee. Yeah. We've seen a lot of gators, so that was kind of cool. There's like monkeys. There's like these little monkeys that were like climbing the trees and stuff, and the water was really clear. It was pretty cool.
Dude, I've always heard about wild monkeys in Florida, but I never like halfway believed it.
Yeah, well, I'm a believer now. I've seen it.
That's wild. You see any manatees?
Yep. Well, I didn't see manatees there. I see manatees right here on Lake Rodman when I went fishing with Jeff Russell. We seen some manatees, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's no telling what you're gonna run into out there.
No telling for sure.
So one of the big things, the big themes, when you come on the show is talking about the coastal deal and everything that led you to that point. And now you're at the point where you're battling for championships, and now you're winning races, and won some races last year as well. And I think you just signed a new deal going into this season, right?
Yep. 2 years. So this year, next year.
Sweet. So I mean, how does that feel to kind of be like a staple of the team? And I know that you went there with a chip on your shoulder, and so it's got to be gratifying for you to earn that contract and become a staple of that team and kind of plant roots or at least have a home for the next couple years at the minimum.
Yeah. It's I look back on it all now, and I'm like, it's crazy. Like, super thankful, super lucky to land there when I did at the right time. Like, with everything that happened with where I was at before, and leading up to that, like getting in there and then kind of doing the dirty work and working my way up and getting some podiums and then winning, and then it's like last year I get the fill-in ride when Johnny got hurt, and then it's like on board for next 2 years. So it's couldn't have gone any better for sure. I'm super grateful. I had options to go different places, different teams, and it was a really tough decision for me. Like last summer, I was stressing about it. Like, it was just a different situation that I've never been in before, just kind of what to do. And with the Coastal team, I've said it before, and I know it's like they're family to me. Like, they had my back when I was at rock bottom, and most, Barry, he's seen something in me and kind of helped me out and got me going. And, it's, I can't complain. I wouldn't ditch those guys and have to stay right there. So locked in for another 2 years, and it's been good so far. It's not much different, like being one of the guys. Like last year, I was already kind of felt like with the fill in, I was already one of the guys, and it's a cool feeling. I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Glad to hear it and stoked for you to be able to get that done. And it's weird how things work out. Maybe all that stuff that thought was a bad rap at the time ended up being a good thing because without it, you wouldn't be where you are now, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy to look back at stuff like that, but everything happens for a reason. And yeah, I'm super lucky to be where I'm at.
100%. And so this year, getting a new teammate over on the big bike. Ricky, obviously going back to Yamaha, and then Thad coming over, joining you with the Coastal team. How's that been? Like, is there really any big difference or anything different with race day, like changing teammates, or I mean, how does that whole transition go?
I haven't really noticed it. I mean, it's been like me and Ricky were pretty close. Like, we did a lot of stuff together, and with Thad coming over, and us both going the Ranch Russell, he's kind of like almost my dad in a way. Like, I joke around like Maggie's my mom and Thad's my dad. Like, I'm kind of by myself and they take care of me, and it's been super cool. Like, I didn't know Thad a whole lot before he signed with Coastal, but
Oh, really?
No, I didn't know him a whole lot. Like, me, I'm kind of quiet. I don't really talk to a lot of people or go out of the way. I kind of have my circle of people, and he's been super super cool. So and his family and everything, they're awesome people, and they help out the team a bunch as well, so they fit in perfect.
Sweet. That's good, especially especially with you guys training together at Ranch Russell and then being under the same tent on race days. Like, you guys are spending a lot of time together, so it's cool to have someone like that you can get along with, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, me and Ricky, we spend a lot of time together, and I feel like it's the same. Like, me and Thad, we spend a lot of time together. Like, he likes fishing too, so he was actually bummed because I didn't go fishing with him tonight because I had the podcast to do.
Oh,
But
blame it on me. It's all my fault.
Yep. Well, I told him I had priorities. Maybe if he started doing good, he would get on the podcast too, and we could both be on.
Shots fired.
Mm-hmm.
Man, now I'm both honored and thankful, but also feel bad that I kept you from fishing.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I've been fishing enough. Trust me.
You gotta let the shoulders heal, man. It's back-to-back weekends. No
Yep.
off weekend.
Yeah, we fished yesterday. It's good. I can take a day off.
How speaking of the no off weekend, what is it like for you between Florida and Georgia. It's the only time all year that there's 2 back-to-back GNCCs each weekend. I know everyone's used to racing pretty much every weekend, but racing a GNCC one weekend and a National Enduro one weekend, or a Sprint Enduro and then a GNCC, I feel like that's a lot different than back-to-back 3-hour-long races. So is this a normal week of prep, or do you handle Florida and Georgia differently? And does that change now that you're at Ranch Russell? I'm sure that they have a program that they do between these weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely tame. Like it's funny. I was joking around with my buddy that used to help me out. Like when I was working, we would always I would take a week off work. I'd go down to Florida and then I'd take off the whole week and do Georgia and then come back and go to work. And we looked forward to it for like 2 or 3 years. Like we loved it. We just stayed in hotels or camped or did whatever, and it was so much fun just to get away from home, and we loved it. But now it's like now that I'm racing and like doing that all the time, Florida and Georgia is like the most stressful and like the most like it goes by so fast, and it's like it's kind of pointless. Like I look back on it like, why did we do that? We thought it was so cool, but you can't really do anything. Like you're tired after Florida because it's one of the hardest races all year physically, and then you're just like resting all week, tired, trying to get stuff ready for Georgia. So it's the last couple of years it's been very tame, and this week as well with Ranch Russell it's pretty tame. We did pedal today and kind of just got the legs moving and keep fit, but for the most part just kind of chill. I'll probably ride once or twice again, do some more stuff this week, but for the most part it's not as structured as it usually is during the week when it's an enduro back to back with a GNCC.
Yeah, it's got to take some recovery time. Coming off I didn't even race. I just rode a pit bike around chasing you guys around, and I'm sore.
Yeah.
Obviously not saying much, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude, it's cool to see the success. It's got to feel good. Back-to-back wins to start the XC2 campaign off this year. And then the National Enduro, obviously getting second place up there. But, I mean, how do you feel coming in Georgia? Is it a track that you typically like, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I usually like Georgia. Like, I usually struggle in Florida, and I've said it to a couple of people. Like, I think this is the first time technically that I've finished Florida, like straight up, like on the lead lap. Like usually,
Oh, really?
Usually I'll kind of bonk out and kind of quit and just kind of stop. So this was like the first time, and usually I'll bonk at Florida, and then Georgia, like I'll get back in the dirt and I'm like good and have a solid ride. I like Georgia. It's a good place. It's I got on the podium there last year, but I won 2, but I'm just taking this race by race for sure. Like I'm not getting ahead of myself. Like, there's a handful of guys in XC2 that are riding good and hungry and, want to knock me off that top step. So I'm just kind of taking my time, and, I have a good routine of what, and a good formula of what works. So I'm just kind of going race by race and stick to my plan and not let myself get too carried away. Like I just want to, have fun and let everything come to me.
100%. And what job were you doing when you were talking about before when you'd come down and stay in Florida? What were you doing then?
I worked at a glass factory at home in New Jersey. It was like I went to trade school when I was in high school for welding. Like my uncle and my dad were very adamant that I went and did that. So when I finished high school right away, I had a job lined up and went to work with like a family friend. He got me lined up there, and I worked there for like 4 or 5 years or something, almost 5 years until 2020, until like kind of everything got rolling. When COVID hit, I broke my foot, and I was kind of, I went down the stews and lived there, and then, there was the Georgia race that we're going to the General this weekend. it was the second one that when we came back from COVID, they went back to back there, and I got second. I think Craig won. I got second. It was 5th overall and did really good. I remember talking to Stu, and he's like, because they were like, people at work were hammering on me like, when you coming back? With COVID's kind of getting over, and like you need to come back to work. And Stu's like, he talked me into it, like, you made more money just in one weekend than you would make probably a month at work. So if I was you, I would quit and kind of keep doing this racing thing, because that's always what I wanted. And my uncle would never, he wanted me to have that work experience, and I did it for a while, and I don't think he was too happy about it, but it's working out right now, so I can't complain.
That's why I wanted to ask what you were doing, because I wanted to see what your thoughts were compared to that. I mean, in just 2 years' time, and obviously doing this thing full time, and now seeing the success coming in, and I mean, a good season last season, and starting off to a good season this season. It's got to beat punching the time clock, I would imagine.
Yeah, I like it. It keeps you humble. Like I think I told you about it last time when I was on last year. Like I went and worked for Ben Nelko's dad. Not this winter, last winter. I worked for him and like did the same thing, like welding, kind of mechanic, kind of stuff, and just kind of keeping up on stuff. So and then once I got done with that, I was like, I don't want to go back. Like I need to figure this out. I need some money. I better start doing good again. So it's I've been on the right track since. But every time I see Ben's dad, he's like, "You can quit now. You can come work for me." And I'm like, "Nope, I'm good. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing."
Well, sweet. Well, now you do got that experience, so maybe someday you can go back on it. But right now, it's winning races and getting paid to ride dirt bikes. So it's been cool to see the progression of it, man. And it's cool to like become friends and see your success and see this path that you're taking. So pumped on you for you to get those couple wins and have a good showing at Sumter. And man, I wish you good luck this weekend and good luck on the rest of the season, man. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it for sure.
All right, man. Well, appreciate your time, and keep that fishing pole down so the shoulders be all ready to go into Georgia.
Will do. I'll try.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yep, talk to you later.